Hello, good evening and welcome to Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. I am Martin Asiedu, and coming up tonight, the composition of a 5-member task force to help retrieve alleged stolen public assets stirs up conversation about possible duplicity. Tonight, we engage anti-graft campaigners on what the way forward should be regarding this particular issue. Also in the bulletin, the Supreme Court has cleared impediments to anti-LGBT bill becoming law after a unanimous verdict dismissing 2 suits challenging the bill's passage. Tonight, it remains to be seen if President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo will assent to the bill. And later in the bulletin, the Electoral Commission is currently under intense pressure to declare outstanding constituency results in the just ended polls. But the EC says it lacks the requisite police protection to enable it complete its work. We'll interrogate this issue in detail for you as well. We are live around the world on 3news.com. And if you're listening to us live, let's hear from you. We'll be happy to hear your thoughts on the many stories we have for you tonight. We'll bring you details of the stories in a jiffy. All right, so let's cross over to Emmanuel Samani to bring us a summary of the stories we have for you this evening. Hello, Samani.
Hello, Martin. Well, thank you very much. Let's dive right into it. And the two cases filed by media personality Richard Delaskai and Amanda Odoy against the anti-LGBTQ bill has been dismissed by the Supreme Court. The apex court, chaired by Avril Lovelace Johnson, unanimously dismissed the suits. Now, in Richard Sky's case, he was contesting the legality of the bill, arguing that it violates several provisions in the 1992 Constitution. Now, away from that, the Precious Minerals Marketing Company, PMMC, has accused Joseph Yamin, who's the national organizer of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, and others of attempting to interfere with bullion bars belonging to the Bank of Ghana. The PMMC made this disclosure in a press statement issued on Wednesday, 18 December, following an incident that occurred on Tuesday, December 17. Now, according to the statements, the bullion bars in question are part of the Bank of Ghana's Domestic Gold Purchase Program, that's the DGPP, which is a key initiative aimed at strengthening Ghana's gold reserves and bolstering the country's economy. Onto some other stories now. Rather unfortunate as 6 people tragically lost their lives during Ghana's 2024 general elections on December 7 in incidents of violence across the country. A total of 76 election-related incidents with 46 injuries were also recorded, casting a shadow of what was meant to be a democratic milestone. Now, this is contained in a report put together by the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, as well as the West African Network for Peacebuilding, WANEP. Now, according to these groups, they fear that violence perpetrated by political parties before, during, and after the elections poses a significant threat to Ghana's democracy. Now, the transition team of President-elect John Dramani Mahama has announced the formation of a preparatory team to drive his anti-corruption agenda ahead of his assumption of office. Now, this move is an indication of Mahama's commitment to addressing corruption and ensuring accountability, which is a central promise during his 2024 presidential campaign. Now, in a statement dated December 18, 2024, and signed by spokesperson Felix Kwachiofosu, the team will gather information from the public and other credible sources on suspected acts of corruption. Now, the team is tasked with laying the groundwork for what the President-elect John Dramani Mahama refers to as the Operation Recover All Loot Oral, an initiative aimed at reclaiming proceeds from corrupt practices and holding perpetrators accountable. Now, finally, at the extraordinary ordinary meeting of the Parliamentary Service Board in November 2024, at which 3 deputy clerks were interviewed for the position of the Clerk of Parliament, Mr. Ebenezer Ahoma Jetora, emerged as a newly appointed clerk to Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Now, this follows the retirement of the current clerk to Parliament, Mr. Clerk Cyril Kwabena Oteng-Nsia, who will be attaining the compulsory retirement age 60 years come 2nd February 2025. And that's it by way of the summaries, Martin.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Samani, with the summaries of the bulletin for you. Let's delve into the main specifics we have for you this evening. And we are starting from one of the stories Samani just touched on, which has to do with President-elect John Dramani Mahama announcing a 5-member group that will be starting the operation Recover All Loot, which is an initiative aimed at reclaiming proceeds from corrupt practices and or holding perpetrators accountable for national assets that are suspected to have been looted or taken without due recourse. And let me take you through the members that make up this group. They are Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, who is going to be the chairman of the group, Daniel Yaodomlevo, the former Auditor General, COP retired Nathan Kofi Boache, who is a retired Commissioner of Police, and then Martin Pebu, a private legal practitioner. And finally, we also have Raymond Archer, who is an investigative journalist. Let's go to the phone lines now and engage Edem Senanu, who is an anti-graft campaigner and co-chair for the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Mr. Senanu, good evening and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
To start with, what would you say your initial thoughts are on the 5-member group that are expected to initiate the Operation Oral for the President-elect John Dramani Mahama?
Well, I think that the composition gives quite a bit of confidence. These are persons who have previously voluntarily done a lot of things within the space of anti-corruption and good governance. And so they are credible individuals, and I'm sure they'll bring their experiences and expertise to bear on the committee's work.
And what do you make of those who are arguing that this in itself will be more like a creation or a duplication of roles, considering the fact that Ghana already has a number of anti-graft institutions? We have IOCO, we have the Financial and Organized Crime Office also, and so asking a group, a new set of people to undertake similar roles will be duplication of roles. Do you agree, or what are your thoughts on that argument?
No, I don't see how this is any form of duplication. First of all, this is a committee. It is not an institution. So the two are totally distinctly different. Again, this committee's mandate is fact-finding. It does not proceed into investigation and prosecution. The innovativeness of it is that it rides on the back of a whistleblowing strategy, which is to say we're encouraging citizens provide as much information as you can. What that does is that you will have several sources of information which can validate each other and then provide more quality evidence when necessary. Unlike us sitting and waiting and saying, citizens, you write to OSP or write to TRAJ if you are so inclined to. That might not get the result they want. So this is a strategy. I think it complements what our agencies will do. When they've aggregated the data, they would have to hand it over to the relevant institutions mandated to investigate and prosecute. I don't see any duplicity.
Right. And so we are unable to tell when exactly they are to start work, hopefully when the incoming president is sworn in. But what are your expectations? Do you foresee Ghanaians willingly going out with information to this group? Will that be under the anonymity clause where they wouldn't want to show their identity, maybe for fear of people getting to know who brought this kind of information? How do you see the operations playing out?
Actually, in my mind, I think that they have started as the letter has come out, because it seemed to me that part of this so-called pre-preparatory committee is because at this time, some people in public office and elsewhere may be trying to hide assets, transfer assets, do all manner of things. And so they are saying, look, the people of Ghana, in line with your responsibility to protect the assets of the state under Article 41, be alert to anything going on, let us know. And I think the individuals involved said that people know that these are persons who themselves would have done this anyway. the caution is that, yes, the sensitivity of the information said that they must ensure anonymity, and so they should make sure whatever platforms citizens will be using to provide such information, they will have systems in place to ensure that they expose the individuals, because that would then undermine the confidence of the citizens in providing information.
Right. It has gotten a lot of people talking. Majority of the comments, if you do a cursory look, are in the positive sense, where people say the incoming administration means business, but at least coming out with the names of these individuals to start or initiate the conversation around the oral. But there are those who are also skeptical, saying that the likes of your good self, there are other key individuals, anti-graft agencies, and people who've been fighting and pushing the anti-corruption agenda or conversation for years now, but very little to nothing is seen done in terms of people actually being arrested and prosecuted and jailed or asked to return the items that they are believed to have stolen. So are you also positive that something more concrete will come out of this than just another group of people who probably just hold a press conference to tell us how difficult fighting corruption is in Ghana?
I'd like to assume that this is just one of the strategies in the box of strategies to be deployed by His Excellency the President when he comes into office. Because clearly, I also align with the fact that this by itself cannot be the panacea. And many other things would need to happen to make sure for example, I would expect anti-corruption fast-track courts that will speed up the processes of the cases that we need to handle. I'd expect that the conduct of public officers bill will be passed, because there are elements that we don't have at the moment, lifestyle audits, etc. And so this is where, for example, in the Cicely Adapa case, we started going around in circles. So there's some parts of the laws we have that need to be tightened. Fast-track courts will help. The constitutional amendments that reduce the appointment of ministers from Parliament and then weaken the oversight of Parliament over the executive. There are quite a number of things that will need to be done to have a holistic effort that brings the fight back on track. So it is certainly not just simply an issue of this committee by itself. I keep saying that, look, if under the former government we had GIDA, we had SADA, one should be learning from those as well and saying, what are the lessons learned? What will we do differently to prevent this from repeating itself? Because the president can have good intentions, set up a committee, whilst other people elsewhere will have their own agenda if we don't have systems in place. All
right. We are grateful for your time this evening, Adam Senanu, and thank you for making time to speak with us.
Grateful also.
Yeah, we've been speaking to Adam Senanu, who is an anti-graft campaigner and the co-chair for Citizens Movement Against Corruption. And the point is that there is a group of individuals who've been put together by the incoming government. John Dramani Mahama's government has already put out a 5-member committee, and their task is simple. They need to initiate the fight against corruption and recover all loot, which is the Operation Oral, and I'm sure many of you have already been talking about it. So the transition team of President-elect John Dramani Mahama announced the formation of a preparatory team. That's what they are referred to as, a preparatory team, to drive the anti-corruption agenda ahead of the swearing-in, which will be on the 7th of January 2025, when John Mahama takes office as President of the Republic. The move is an indication of Mr. Mahama's commitment to addressing corruption and ensuring accountability, a central promise during his 2024 campaign. In a statement which was signed by Felix Kwachiofosu and dated today, it indicated that the team will gather information from the public and other credible sources on suspected acts of corruption. The team is tasked with laying the groundwork for what President-elect John Mahama refers to as Operation Recover All Loot Oral, an initiative aimed at reclaiming proceeds from corrupt practices and holding perpetrators accountable. And the individuals, as I mentioned earlier, are Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, a member of Parliament for North Tongue and the chairman of the committee, We also have Daniel Yaw-Domlevo, who is a former Auditor General. You'll recall that this individual, Daniel Yaw-Domlevo, was, for lack of a better expression, we can say he was hounded out of office as the Auditor General after he had raised some very interesting questions about the operations of some key government officials in this present administration. And because of that, people felt that his decision to fight corruption and draw public attention to some untoward activities got the system and the presidency, or the office of the presidency, fighting him. You would recall there was a back and forth letter between him and the secretary to the president, Santi Bedietu, where he was even forced to go on leave, where he said that, well, the leave is there for him to go, but he believes that he would want to still work and offer his services to his nation. He was told that it was compulsory for him to go on leave. So he was technically kicked out. A few days after, he goes back to office and the lock on his office door had been changed. So it was then he came out to find that in Ghana, anytime you give your intention to fight corruption, corruption actually fights you back. And so he had a long back and forth, but eventually was asked not to return to the office. By the time he got there, a new person had taken the place. So it was quite hectic for him, and now he has an appointment out of the jurisdiction, but still comes around every now and then. Well, President-elect John Mahama believes Yaw-Domlevo's experience and efforts are needed if we want to actually recover items, property, money, gold, whatever it is that should belong to the state that has been illegally stolen or taken away to be recovered for the state. Then we have also COP retired Nathaniel Kofi Boakye. Kofi Boakye, when he was the regional commander in the Ashanti region, everybody in the region could attest to the fact that crime in the Ashanti region had reduced drastically. He was later moved to Greater Accra, and then later, was more or less retired to the desk in the office in Greater Accra police headquarters. So he retired, and his services have been sought by the incoming president. There is also Martin Asiedu, private legal practitioner, one who has been very vociferous when it comes to issues of probity and accountability, takes on the president and the current administration very, very hard, goes on at them and ensures that he says that they have just been lax in fighting corruption and have shown no action whatsoever in making sure that corruption is dealt with decisively. So Martin Asiedu, many actually were saying that maybe he should be considered for special prosecutor or maybe attorney general. Well, he's been already given an assignment by the incoming administration. We'll see how things work out. And finally, there is Raymond Acha. For those of you who've been in the media for a while, he is an investigative journalist who, under the former Kufuor administration, was actually one of the key journalists who wrote a number of articles exposing rot and corruption. And clearly, just like Yaw-Domlevo said, corruption fought him back and he had to go under for a bit. Well, maybe his journalism career is likely to revive, and we'll see how all of this plays out. So those are the members of the team that are going to initiate the Operation Recover or Loot Oral. A lot of you have been commenting. We'll read some of your messages shortly. But still on this particular subject, the President-elect John Dramani Mahama has been speaking on it. Let's listen to him briefly, and then we can put the other issues in perspective for you to follow.
I do think that people must be held accountable. If you agree to accept the public trust, then you must account to the people who gave you that public trust. And so if we do this, it will make people think twice before they accept public office. I mean, if you live in your own private business, you can run it anyhow you want. That's your business. But if you come and the taxpayer you're put in an office which is paid with taxpayers' money, you must be prepared to account to the people for the trust that they have put in you. And so we want to raise accountability to another level. It's in our constitution that we shall uphold the principles of probity and accountability. And so it's a constitutional obligation for us to do that. As I said yesterday, this probably is our last chance to get things right. Because if this administration does not lift the level, then, I mean, people really would look at other means of, being able to achieve what they think would make life better for them. And as I said, we're not immune to what is happening in other countries in our sub-region. And so we need to work as quickly as possible to bring back trust in our democracy.
You hear the voice of President-elect John Dramani Mahama there. So do let us know what you also make of the team that have been put together. We'll be happy to share your thoughts with the rest of the world. Away from that, let's go to the Supreme Court now. And the court has cleared the path for President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to assent into law the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, also known as the Anti-LGBTQ Bill. Earlier today, a 7-member panel of the Apex Court unanimously dismissed 2 petitions challenging the constitutionality of the bill. You would recall that Parliament in February this year passed the controversial bill prohibiting same-sex relationships and activities, as well as the promotion of same-sex. Under the law, offenders could face jail terms if found guilty, in addition to other sanctions. However, 2 citizens, Richard Delaskai and Dr. Amanda Odoi, in separate suits, questioned the legality of the private member's bill. Mr. Delaskai had argued that the bill violates several provisions of the 1992 Constitution, including Article 33(5), 12(1), and 2, among others. Now, the reliefs he was seeking included a declaration that the Speaker of Parliament breached Article 108A A and 2 by permitting the passage of a bill that imposes a charge on the Consolidated Fund or other public funds of Ghana, and wanted it declared unconstitutional. Dr. Amanda Odoi, on the other hand, sought a restraining order to prevent the Speaker of Parliament, the Attorney General, and the Clerk of Parliament from forwarding the bill to President Akufo-Addo for assent. That action became the basis for President Akufo-Addo to decline transmission and assenting to the bill, citing the pending case at the Supreme Court. Today, the court, however, the Apex Court, dismissed the 2 actions and said that, among other things, the applicants did not properly invoke the court's jurisdiction. Lawyers for the applicants have been reacting to the court's decision. First, let's listen to the lawyer for Richard Sky, who's been expressing his thoughts after the court ruled.
The law had not blossomed into an act. Therefore, we had no right to come to court. The bill had not blossomed into an act. Therefore, we had no right to come to court. But please, for now, it is just a tip of the iceberg. Let's get a full judgment. Look at it with the lawyers' lenses, then possibly advise our clients on the next step to take.
Councillor, what's the next line of action? I know you are saying that we should wait to go through the judgment, but in any case, are you considering further action?
It will be very preemptive. As professionals, it will be unethical without seeing the full judgment to conclude that you take a further step. So I will plead with all of us. In fact, it is constitutionally binding that we act within the constraints of the law. So please, let all exercise some restraint until we read the full judgment.
And that's the voice of Anti Asiedu, who is the lawyer for Richard Delaskai, whose case was dismissed earlier today. Now let's go and listen to Dr. Ernest Akon, who is lawyer for Amanda Odoi, on the similar grounds of why the court dismissed the issue, and then also what he makes of the court's decision.
The decision of the Supreme Court is final, but this is not final. There is another leg of finality to go. There's a review jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, which is available to us if we want to use it. And so it's not final. There have been instances where there's been a 5-0 and an appeal. It is there on the review, it has been overturned. So anything can happen. So it depends on what is in there in the judgment, and then we can advise.
So that is Dr. Ernest Akon, lawyer for Amanda Odoi, who had her case also dismissed by the Supreme Court. She was saying that the decision of the Parliament of Ghana to pass the Anti-LGBTQ bill, or the proper Human Rights and Sexual Values Bill, Family Values Bill, would have an impact on the coffers of the state, which will mean that if, for instance, people are arrested and prosecuted and jailed, they have to be taken care of by the state. And on the back of that, she believes because of that, the president should reconsider. And that's why the president said he was not going to sign it. Well, as it stands, it looks as though when we get the full judgment, which the court says will be released on Friday, we'll then get to understand the timelines regarding how quickly the bill can be transmitted to the president and how soon the president will sign it or not, if he probably has other issues of concern against it. Now, Member of Parliament for South Dai and also a member or one of the key individuals who were sponsoring the bill, Roxanne Nelson Dafamekpo, expressed his consent about the bill and said that President Akufo-Addo now has no option than to sign the bill into law without delay. Let's listen to Roxanne Nelson Dafamekpo.
The clerk to Parliament, who is constitutionally mandated in law to remit or transmit a bill passed into an act of law by Parliament to the office of the President for his or her action. And so now my expectations are that transmission can be done today. There's no longer any legal impediment to, as it were, prevent or desist, so that he will have to desist from transmitting same to the office of the President for his assent. But let me quickly add that I have all along known that this was a journey to nowhere. This was premeditated. It was clearly done to frustrate this process. This is constitutional law 101. And Richard Kai is now a trained lawyer. He's not merely a journalist. He's now a trained lawyer. He's now a legal mind. And so he knows all along that the step that he has taken will end up this way. And so I'm not surprised the position taken by the court. He had no cause of action at the time he actioned this matter and took it to the Supreme Court. His course of action has no ripping. And so, like the court said, it was premature. And it is simply that. It was a premature ejaculation.
Nonetheless, it took the court so long to finally come to this point. Would you be surprised if the current president fails to assent to it?
The president no longer has the reason not to assent to it. If he has any reason, he ought to have communicated that pursuant to Article 106 and 108 of the Constitution long ago, when the bill was first transmitted to him. He has imperatives in the Constitution. If he objects to some content of the bill, there are procedures provided under the Constitution. The provisions are articulated to proceed. And having not done that, I believe when the document lands, when the act as passed by Parliament lands on his desk, and I urge the clerk to Parliament to strongly do that today. If it lands on his desk anytime later today, he's supposed to put pen to paper.
That is Roxanne Nelson Dafamekpo, Member of Parliament for South Dai and also a sponsor of the Anti-LGBTQ bill, speaking in that interview with my colleague Beatrice Edu earlier today. You're still listening to 3FM 92.7. Let's go to the phone lines now and engage Reverend Professor Frimpong Manso, who is the former president of the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council and also the president of the Frimpong Manso Prayer Ministry. Prof, a very good evening to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, but it's Frimpong Manso Institute, not Prayer Ministry.
Frimpong Manso Institute. Thank you for the correction. To start with, what are your initial thoughts on what has come out of the courts, where for those who are just joining, the case is that when Parliament passed the bill, it went to the president. But before it got to the president, there were some cases pending in court, 2 of them actually. Fast forward to today, the Supreme Court has come out to say that the two cases that were preventing the president from assenting to the bill have been dismissed. So the onus now shifts back to Parliament to transmit the bill to the president to sign into law. What do you make of all of this back and forth and the latest development from the courts today?
Yeah, I'm seeing maturity in rule of law in Ghana. So if anything at all, Ghana has chalked another success in our democratization processes. First, this law has passed through Parliament, it has been tested through the judiciary, and now it is still in the bosom of the executive. What a brilliant process. Of course, Ghanaians overwhelmingly supported this bill. Parliament unanimously passed it. But as a true democratic society, we respect rule of law and individual views. Of course, so they took it to the highest court of the land to object it with some reasons which you better know than I. And now the Supreme Court throwing away these objections, now it lies in the hands of the executive to tell the Ghanaians that no objections, Parliament has passed it. So now they are going to do it. So I hope, it's my firm belief that possibly our outgoing president will send it before he leaves, depending upon the swiftness with which Parliament will submit it to him. So I'm expecting a positive report, a positive outcome of this bill from His Excellency, the President, who is about to exit from the office.
Right. He has barely 2 weeks to go. And I get the point where you are expressing optimism and confidence that the current administration should be able to look through now that the case has left the Supreme Court for him to sign it. But from the posturing and the language and all of what we have heard from the office of the president regarding this bill, and even the opposition that some NPP MPs raised against it, the human rights concerns that were raised, are you confident that the president will actually go ahead, or probably he might raise a concern or two again about this particular bill?
Well, I don't know. In Parliament, was it passed unanimously, or some people objected to the passing of the bill?
It got parliamentary approval. So clearly, what happens is that so far as it's gone through and Parliament has actually passed it after the third reading, then the House unanimously came together to give it assent.
And true. The second thing is that as it passed through the courts and come out successfully, these objections have been thrown away. I think so, isn't it? That's what we heard today.
Yes.
So I'm very, very optimistic that it's one of the good legacies probably that are going. Whatever he does with this will be a legacy. Signing this law will please Ghanaians, and possibly Ghanaians who might have had quite a few things against him will think that the man is a Democrat and he has listened to the voices of the people, or the voice of the people. When he does not sign it, it is also going to add to his woes and the records that some people are claiming he is leaving behind. So I'm praying for him to make a decision that will also add to his successes and his legacy. And that will be what the majority of Ghanaians want, to consent or assent to this bill, so that it becomes a law, possibly before he hands over power midnight, January 6th.
All right. We are grateful for your time, Reverend Professor Frimpong Manso, and thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you.
And we've been speaking to Reverend Frimpong Manso, who is a former president, Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, and also president of the Frimpong Manso Institute, sharing his thoughts on the anti-LGBTQ bill, which had some 2 cases against it in court. And the latest is that the Supreme Court dismissed the 2 cases against the bill. And from all indications, it's going to go back to Parliament, and probably between today and tomorrow, or latest Friday, it should be on its way to the office of the president for his assent. Now, the president needs to sign it before it actually becomes law. That is if you follow due process. So we will only wait to see whether or not President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo would sign it. And from what Reverend just told us, if he does, that will be one of the legacies he will be remembered for. But we only can wait and see if he will do so. You're still listening to 3FM 92.7. This is Hot Edition. My name is Martin Asiedu. We're going on to some other stories now. This time around, let's do politics. And the Electoral Commission says that the Ghana Police Service is unable to provide security to enable it complete processes which will lead to the declaration of results for some outstanding constituencies. To make matters worse, the opposition National Democratic Congress has also dragged the Electoral Commission to court over results recollation in 5 constituencies which have already been declared after the just ended parliamentary election. The lawsuit aims to block the EC from recollating and declaring the parliamentary results from Domikwabinya, Ukaikwe Central, Ablekuma North, Tema Central, and Obuasi East. Just today, 6 new NPP parliamentary candidates in the 2024 elections have also filed an application at the High Court seeking to compel the Electoral Commission to collate and declare parliamentary results in their respective constituencies. Represented by lawyer Gary Namaku, the candidates Charles Forson for Tema Central, Frank Anodompre in Sawama Duedri, Patrick Yabuama, Ukaikwe Central, Martin Kwekwe J. Mensa Kosa for the Techiman South constituency, Nanekwe Wuswe Free Ablekuma North, and Eric Nana Ajiman Prempe for Ahafwano North are seeking the court to intervene to mandate the Electoral Commission to collate and declare the results of the elections held on the 7th of December 2024 in their constituencies. Speaking exclusively to 3FM and my colleague George Queening, the Director of Training of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Srebo Kweku, cited high stakes and tension surrounding the recollation of the results as the IGP's reason for not providing immediate security for the exercise conducted. So let's listen to Dr. Srebo Kwaku, who has been speaking exclusively to us. All right, so you're listening to 3FM 92.7. Let's bring you that particular voice in a moment. We'll try and get that for you. You're listening to 3FM. So, I mean, the bottom line is that the EC has also raised concerns about why they have not been able to collate in some constituencies. And it looks as though the reason they are citing is purely based on security. And it looks as though while they are trying to ensure that they get security for their people, they also would wish that all the candidates remain calm for them to be able to do their job. So let's listen to Dr. Srebo Kwaku now, who is the Director of Training for the Electoral Commission.
Some of the centers, out of 141, about 31 of the results were not added. You cannot call that one result collation. So wherever the results was not completed, we want to complete. So we wrote to the IGP that we wanted them to create the environment for us to do. But they said that the way the system, the tension, the rest, he cannot assure us, so we should hold on. So immediately the police gives us the assurance that now they are ready to provide the necessary security for us. We'll go ahead and complete the processes.
What about wage Akbawi? Because I know
what I know is that our officers are saying that they completed the process.
The MPP was declared.
But where our officers are saying that they did not complete the process, we have to complete the process.
Yeah, then you also mentioned that we are setting a bad precedent in terms of collation. So actually it's going to mark maybe subsequent elections, whether it will be successful or not, it starts from now. Can you touch more on that?
What I mean is that if people can try to manipulate the system and we accept it, the next time that somebody also plan her best to manipulate the system. So wherever anybody did anything which is contrary to rules and regulation, it should be rectified. So it doesn't become a precedent that we can use foul means to get it even if you have lost the elections.
And some officers of yours were beaten and attacked and all that?
Yes, a lot of them. I think we are talking about 20-something constituencies. Some of them, they successfully conducted elections, but they were attacked and beaten and materials were destroyed.
Dr. Siribo Kwaku is the director at the Electoral Commission in charge of training and has also been sharing his thoughts on why he believes that there are clear challenges in the declaration of these results. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that. And then news just coming in is that the Electoral Commission will be declaring election results. I beg your pardon. The Electoral Commission will be addressing the nation at 6 p.m. That's just in about 10 minutes from now, and we'll try and bring you the live feed of what exactly the EC has to say and whether or not it bothers on these remaining constituencies that are yet to be declared. So stay with your Election Command Center and 3FM 92.7. Still on election-related issues, 6 people tragically lost their lives during Ghana's 2024 general elections on December 7 in incidents of violence across the country. A total of 76 election-related incidents with 46 injuries were recorded, casting a shadow over what was meant to be a democratic milestone. This is contained in a report put together by the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, and the West African Network for Peace Building, WANEP. According to the groups, they fear that violence perpetrated by political parties before, during, and after elections poses a significant threat to Ghana's democracy. Senior Programs Manager for Security, I beg your pardon, let me take that line again. Senior Programs Manager for Security Sector Governance and Local Urban Governance at the CDD, Kwabena Abrampa Mensah, expressed deep disappointment, emphasizing the urgent need for action to prevent such occurrences in the future.
In 2024, the data we have so far, all the 6 are men. But we find out the injuries, yes, we will tease out the system to see the the 46 injuries, what happens. So we can tease out this, because once the data is available, it's easy to query to find out what specific issues you want to do. The rest, I think they were all recommendations. So probably you speak about the security. Security was trying to whisk away EC officials, but they were still being held on stones. And the police station, even, they went to hide them. The police station itself was vandalized. So who policed the police and who secures the safety of the officials who are there to work for us?
You heard the Director of Security Sector Governance and Local Urban Governance at CDD, Kwabena Abrampa Mensah there. Still on the issue, the Vice Chairperson of the National Electoral Reforms Group, Theodora Williams-Anti, has praised the Security Task Force for their exemplary performance during the 2024 elections.
We had very high tensions and very high stakes, and it's very, very important to know that we say it's peaceful today because a lot of work has gone into it, including what you have done with your various organizations. But the numbers of violent incidences that we have seen and still continue to see, including deaths, especially in post-election violence, is not at all what we expected and must be condemned, and we call it very, very unfortunate. We also we commend the National Election Security Task Force, that is the police, for the great job they've done so far. We have made a lot of calls on the police, especially post-election, to take steps to minimize the post-election violence and the chaos we have seen. And I think they have done justice to that. We have seen a lot of arrests, which we must commend.
And you heard the Vice Chairperson of the National Electoral Reforms Group, Theodora Williams-Anti there, who has heaped praises on the Security Task Force for their exemplary performance during the 2024 general elections. You're still listening to 3FM 92.7. We are live around the world on 3news.com. We have more stories for you right after business news with Michael Obodu. Stay with us.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition. Coming up tonight, traders urge President-elect John Dramani Mahama to implement business-friendly policies after assumption of office. I am Michael Obodu. Details coming up shortly. Please stay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Straight into our top story. Some traders have called on President-elect John Dramani Mahama to ensure that his government's policies are business-friendly and reduce the cost of doing business in the country. General Secretary of the Traders Advocacy Group Ghana, Tag Nana Poku, in an interview with 3 Business, emphasized the need for the next government to strengthen the local currency against major trading currencies, providing relief to Ghanaian traders.
Traders' expectation from the incoming administration is very wide concerning port issues, access to credit, and so many things. Thank God the incoming administration were able to bring out a manifesto that is well couched, and it will capture a lot of things at the trading level. We hope and pray that whatever they said in their manifesto will come to pass, and traders will be happy again. CD-dollar relationship will come down. They will have a very good relationship. It will not be like dollar beating CD all the time at his tenure. Definitely there will be that reconciliation for the CD to have a certain strength, so that traders in the country will be very happy.
That was the General Secretary of the Traders Advocacy Group Ghana, Tag Nana Poku there. The government has been advised to harness innovative technologies in its efforts to combat climate change. Head of Agriculture and Rural Transformation at the African Union Development Agency, Dr. Clement Ajololo, emphasized the importance of adopting climate-smart agriculture practices in an interview with 3 Business. According to him, the African Union's climate-smart agriculture initiative features innovative solutions that can mitigate the impacts of climate change if implemented effectively.
Climate change is no longer a host. It is real. We all are witnessing the frequency of climate extremes like droughts. 1 year, the next you move from drought to flood and to pest to many other climate or environment related. So food production is heavily impacted by climate. So we need to adopt new innovative technologies to help us. We need to improve our adaptation strategies so that we are able to farm or produce food in a more climate resilient. So we have programs at AUD and NEPAD level like climate smart agriculture that looked at bringing in innovations that help to mitigate and adapt to climate extremes.
So that was the head of Agriculture and Rural Transformation at the African Union Development Agency, Dr. Clement Ajololo, speaking there. We'll take you back to our earlier story where the Traders Advocacy Group Ghana has also congratulated John Mahama on his victory and expressed hope in his leadership.
We welcome them and we congratulate the president. We hope and pray that their words, which were used for campaigning, for traders to have voted for them, for traders to have believed in them. But I always say this, Mr. John Mahama has a lot of some qualities that I, for one, cherish. Anybody that goes to this man will never put his pen down. Whatever that you are saying, he will write it down. And that makes me a happy person to see Mr. Mahama coming to take control of affairs in the country.
So that was General Secretary of the Traders Advocacy Group Ghana, TAG, Nana Poku, bringing an end to the business segment on Hot Edition. For more business stories, please visit our website at streetnews.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition with me, Oreku Ampofo. We do start off with some athletics where Ghanaian sprinter Benjamin Azamati has attributed his inability of Ghanaian athletes to win major medals at major competitions due to a lack of adequate support from the government. The sprinter revealed this interesting revelation in an exclusive interview with 3 Sports.
Azamati, a member of 100-meter relay team that qualified for the Paris Olympics, has been outspoken about the need for increased investment in athletics to help athletes achieve success on the international stage. He highlighted the importance of providing resources for athletes to participate in preparatory competitions ahead of major events like the World Championship and Olympic Games.
I think before my first Olympics, when I ran the 997, I had to sit out for like a month before going to the Olympic Games. If there had been support, I think I'll be able to go out there in Europe to go compete even before the time, because I was in fine form. So I think, supporting the athletes after they are done with the college, putting them into meets and all that. It's not just about giving them money to feed or anything. I think they can feed themselves, but just about that gap before the major tournament, just putting them in competitions for them to run and get into shape is like a major thing. You have to do that for them.
Azamati, who trains in the US but is currently in Ghana to organize the 3rd edition of his Ghana Junior Olympics, says his inspiration for the initiative came from his own challenges as a young athlete. He emphasized the need to provide better support to talented Ghanaian youth, ensuring they have every opportunity he lacked at the start of his career.
I started athletics at the age of like 19 when I was in SHS. And so we saw what the US were doing, introducing the kids to athletics. And at the age of 18, they're already in the limelight, doing well, being in the Olympics, running with the pros and all that. And so we thought it was wise to, introduce these kids to track and field for them to fall in love with the sports at a younger age. For now, we're focusing more on the kids. Last time we made the seniors take part in it, but this time we are not doing that. We're just giving the chance to the kids.
The Junior Olympics will take place at the University of Ghana Stadium on the 26th of December 2024.
That was a report by my colleague Mutala Yakubu. But let's do some more here and talk about the Black Galaxies as they and Nigeria go head-to-head in 2 games to determine who picks up a slot to be and participate at the CHAN competition, which would be staged later in Kenya, Uganda, and then Tanzania. The Black Galaxies would be meeting Nigeria in the first leg in Accra on December 22nd, and then meet in Lagos 4 days later to determine which of these 2 countries would be qualifying for the tournament. Ahead of the first leg this weekend, the players have been calling on Ghanaians to support them.
The D-Day is almost approaching. That's on Sunday. And I'll urge each and everyone as a Ghanaian to please, if you can be available to come and watch us and give us your full support. Because I always say, supporters are the 12th member of a team when we are playing. So we need your full support and everything you can give us so that you can go all out of them. Because we playing against Nigeria is not easy. It's not easy at all because I learned Ahmed Musa is there and everything. So legend like Ahmed Musa, it's really, really tough. So we need all of you to come in your numbers and come and cheer us on. Come in, because Ghana football is not lost. Yeah. We are coming to give you guys the love and everything. Really, Ghana League, really. It's not lost. Oh, Charlie.
And so that was the Black Galaxies there as they get ready to face Nigeria this weekend. But let's go overseas where there will be Carabao Cup action tonight. The quarterfinal fixture sees Arsenal host Crystal Palace. Newcastle are home to Brentford, whilst Liverpool travel to Southampton. For Liverpool, they would be without their new coach and who has slotted in quite well, leading the Premier League table, and would have one eye on his first trophy as well in the quarterfinals when they face Southampton. However, the Reds would be without the Dutch coach as he has picked up a number of yellow cards which would see him suspended for the match. Now, he says that this would definitely have an impact on his Liverpool side.
Not as much as I thought. It should impact me because if you are suspended in Holland, then you're not allowed to be in and around the dressing room. You cannot do the media as well. So this is a lighter version of suspension. I would say that I'm used to, but I've never been used to being suspended. So it's the first time I am. I think I'm still able to do the things I want to do. The moment you have, the less impact you have on your team is during the 45 minutes, and the most impact you can have is at halftime before the game. And those are the things I can do. But in an ideal situation, I would have just been on the sideline. But I got a yellow, which I probably deserved again as well. And this happens.
Well, let's talk about some more Carabao Cup action. As I mentioned earlier, Arsenal would be at home against Crystal Palace, and their head coach Mikel Arteta believes that winning the Carabao Cup would boost the confidence of his side, who are looking to win some trophies after he did win some a few years back, winning the FA Cup with Arsenal.
Again, it gives you trust, belief. The fact that you've done it, I think, is contagious for the rest, and it has to be a first time that you do it, and as well difficult to replicate when you haven't done it and you have the hunger to do it. That's a really positive thing as well. So we have to look at it from that perspective.
And quickly before we go, Marcus Rashford has been in the media recently talking about the pursuit for a new challenge, a message that has been interpreted by many as a move which could potentially happen in January, with reports suggesting that the forward could leave Manchester United in the winter transfer window. However, Amorim believes that the English forward still has a place in his Manchester United squad.
I spoke with a lot of players individually and during trainings. What I want is to take the best of Marcus Rashford as the players. So I don't talk about the future, I just talk about the present. I want the best of each one of them. And that is the key point for me. I just want to win and to help the team to be better. So we are better with Marcus Rashford, and that's simple. And we try different things to push Marcus to the best level that he's shown in the past. So that's all.
And that was Ruben Amorim. Manchester United themselves will be in action tomorrow in the Carabao Cup away at Tottenham Hotspur. That's how we wrap up the sports segment here on Hot Edition. You can get some more sports stories on our social media handles at 3SportsGH and then on 3news/sport. My name is Ore Kwampofo, and Hot Edition continues right after this.
And that is Ore Kwampofo with the latest in the world of sports. Let's bring you one final story before we bow out of the studio. And the news we got this evening indicate that the Minority Chief Whip has raised an alarm over plans by government to engage a private entity for the activation of the e-gate system at the Kotoka International Airport at the cost of $147 million. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia on December 3 commissioned the electronic gate to help streamline immigration at the airport. Kwame Governs Abuja is cautioning against the transfer of any money to a recently opened Bank of Ghana account for the project, which he deems to be a create, loot, and share scheme. We'll bring you details of this particular story in subsequent bulletins, but thank you very much for listening to 3FM 92.7, and let's listen briefly to what Kwame Governs Abuja has been saying regarding an amount of $147 million, which he is saying or alleging is to be paid to a private entity to activate the e-gate system that was launched by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
The Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, actually looked on when an entity in this country actually proposed that the e-gate alone will be $200 million. E-gate, in an airport that cost $250 million, was supposed to be done for $200 million. That amount has been revised to $140 million, and today we are told that is still around $147 million. What will be the reason, justification for this? And as I speak to you, Ministry of Finance and Ghana Immigration Service are in a rush to activate this and allow a private entity to fleece the people of this country, because there's an opportunity to charge, according to them, $5 per passenger to take this money. And actually, when they are even in opposition, they will be making money out of this. Why on earth would a whole airport cost $250 million to build? And you will be trying to get into an agreement with an entity to run an e-gate service for almost $147 million. This can be at the peak of create, loot, and share. And everybody involved in this. I know that this, when they went through the scenarios to the VFM and other things, as we speak, the VFM for this, even this loot, create, loot, and share, is not completed. But people are at Bank of Ghana trying to open an account for GIS and others to start collecting this money. The warning is this. This is an illegality. Do not proceed. And every civil servant who is involved in a hasty decision to sign an agreement with this entity, I have decided not to mention the entity, but this entity specializes in getting soft money from DVLA, Passport Office, National Identification Authority, and other things. This time round, it's not going to happen. So, Bank of Ghana, Ministry of Finance, Ghana Immigration Service, by the laws that we pass in this house, that activity was not supposed to be an operation by Ghana Immigration Service. It's an integrated service that is supposed to be provided at the airport. There's no need for us to do what they are doing. So the e-gate cannot be $147 million, just the provision of service, when the entire airport costs $250 million. So we are watching. So if you are a civil servant being cajoled to go ahead and do this agreement, we are watching you. When you tried to open the account last week at Bank of Ghana, we knew what you did. Who is going to be drawing money from that account? We are watching you. When the political actors who are compelling you to do this are gone, on the 7th of January, you'll be on your own. So do not put yourself into any trouble.
Kwame Governs Agboja is the minority chief whip in Parliament and has been raising concerns about the e-gate project. We'll definitely keep tabs on this story as well and keep you posted in subsequent bulletins. That's it for Hot Edition on 92.7. I am Martin Asiedu. If you visit our website 3news.com, you'll find many more stories there to get yourself acquainted with developments in Ghana. Do have a good evening. As always, stay positive. Bye for now.